Hey, Dark Rifles. Hey, welcome for joining us. We have a special opportunity to sit down with our brigade commander, Colonel Paul Sellers. Sir, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us into the Dark Rifles.
I thank you, Craig. It's a great opportunity to get a chance to talk to the Dark Rifles. It's a time of great change and transition for you guys to go. Got an NTC coming up, and Poland right after that. It's an exciting time. So I'm happy to be helping you as best I can.
Yeah, it is. You know, here at the Dark Rifle Battalion, we always talk about how our purpose is to outthink and outmaneuver and outfight our enemy. I was wondering, with your experience, what has worked best for us to be able to do that?
Well, Craig, I would say you need to flatten the communications as best you can. In order to outthink the enemy, you need to look at, in this day and age at the battalion level, your battalion staff, everything's worked off of screens in the talk, and information that comes into the screens is only as good as the information that you guys send up.
Yeah.
So the decisions you make at the battalion level impact everybody. So the ability for everyone across your force to understand the intent and paint the picture of what you want to see helps inform them so that you can trust your subordinates to enact your vision. And then conversely, you need to get reports back from them as quickly as possible so that you can identify whether or not the scenario is working out towards what your intent was, or if you need to make some changes in your course of action. But flattening that communications is critical for them to understand what you want to see, and for them to show you, is this actually, am I seeing what I should expect, or is it going to be different?
Yeah, and I think one of the big issues is how important an individual soldier is, and just them reporting up through that chain of what they're seeing, how is it occurring to them, makes a big difference.
Yes, and being concise but specific is always something that's super important, because that helps you identify, oh, I see what they're seeing, because they're specific. Even if it being wordy isn't specific, you can be very concise and still be specific, and that's important.
Okay. Well, sir, I know you fought wars almost your entire career, and I was hoping you'd share with the Dark Rifles, what has been the most valuable skill that infantrymen need to practice and develop?
Craig, I would say that your weapons handling is first and foremost. Yeah. Being a master of your weapon system, both your primary, alternate, crew serve, whatever it is, you own that weapon system. I would also say land navigation. It's sometimes is a kind of a lost skill now because we've got so much technology, but just the basic understanding of how to read maps, how to talk people onto a specific location, which is my third point of being able to call for fire. The skill sets that you learn when you're practicing call for fire helps you not just in your call for fire, but in your lateral communications left and right. When I talk about flattening communications, those three skills all kind of work hand in hand, that are the basics, and that are kind of build a foundation for everything else.
Yeah, and I've heard you talk about aggressive weapon control with highly discriminate eyes. I was wondering what do you mean by that?
Just you own the weapon system. The weapon system doesn't own you, especially when you get up to like the crew served weapon systems. People kind of like let the weapon control them. But it's been my experience that the better you own your weapon system, you just think of it as an extension of yourself towards the enemy, and aggressively working the weapons malfunctions drills, barrel changes, you name it, all that stuff. And you're leaning into the weapon. You are controlling the weapon, whether it's a Mark 19, 50 cal, 240, it doesn't matter what it is. You know how to work it. You're well rehearsed in it, and you know that if something goes wrong, you're able to fix it quickly, and don't let it control you. You control it. That's what I mean by that.
Yeah, brilliant.
And then being able to, that frees up your professionalism in that weapon system, allows your eyes and ears to, you can discriminate targets more effectively because you're not nervous about what the weapon is. You're in control of it, and you're driving it to where you need it.
Yeah, great. Sir, we've worked together quite a while, and one of the things I hear you say all the time is, hey, we need to be brilliant at the basics. I was wondering if you'd talk more about that.
Certainly, as like I mentioned in the previous, the weapons handling, land navigation, and call for fire, they kind of build on each other, and that's your foundation. So your ability to handle your weapon, that saves you in the close fight. Yeah. The land navigation, that gets you to the correct point that you want to be, and plus you can, and with the tied in with the skills of the call for fire, you can talk others into where you need them.
Yeah.
If you need help or you need to retrograde, your ability to land nav and to communicate with those others to your left and right on what the situation is that's going on, coordinating all those effects, that's really it. It's your ability to put that direct fire and indirect fire on the target and move in the right direction it's all critical when you coordinate that all together.
So weapons handling, land navigation, call for fire, and how they all go together.
Yes.
That's your brilliant, your basics.
That's the foundation.
You know, and it's funny because, like I said, the other thing I always hear you talk about as we've worked together is how much you just hate seeing soldiers' time get wasted. I mean, why is that? And kind of talk about that.
Well, I've been a guardsman my whole career. I've never
Yeah.
been active duty except for deployments and such. So I've always worked with short timelines, drill weekends, AT.
Yeah.
You always want to do a lot. You want to get a lot of stuff done. But it's always been my experience that the sign of a good leader is somebody that doesn't waste the soldier's time. He's able to coordinate all the moving pieces of what you have to accomplish over a drill weekend or AT, and you keep everybody engaged. You know, I think of a bunch of people, Joe's smoking a joke and telling stories off on the side of the armory or whatever. That's a blinking neon sign that says incompetent leader.
Yeah.
So, and that, you know, as we grow more senior in our ranks, you know, you're looking at subordinate leaders, how effectively do they engage everybody? You know, that's critically important for us as leaders. And I take that as a personal charge for myself. I want to make sure that everyone shows up to drill, gets trained hard, gets to go home, tell lies for the rest of the week about how awful it was or how awesome it was at drill. And then they're excited to come back the next drill.
Yeah, I totally understand. And I agree. And I think one of the things we hear over and over again is soldiers, they want to get after it. Don't waste our time. We want to get after it. And so, yeah, I appreciate you talking about that. You know, sir, as you know, we got another NTC rotation coming up. As Task Force Dark Rifles gets ready to go, I was wondering if you could tell us, what do you think we need to focus on the most?
Craig, what made me most nervous as we were preparing for the NTC iteration that got canceled was really that night operations.
Yeah.
We didn't have a lot of repetitions with night driving. So as I look at what I think you guys could focus on is that it's that day and night driving and integration of mounted, dismounted, and putting all the pieces together in some sort of a tactical scenario that allows people the realism of what they're doing, so that they're depending on each other, the dismounts from the mounted and the staff from the scouts. Everybody is involved and everyone understands how it all works together.
Yeah.
And it's so much tougher when you do that at night because you're really relying on your tactical communications. And your ability, again, going back to the communications piece, ability to paint that picture of what's going on helps everybody understand, and then they get confidence in each other.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned earlier that you really see that something needs to be deliberately rehearsed, that everybody kind of knows their lane, everyone's looking out for each other, especially at night, because vehicles are moving, people are moving out. Important that is not to just wish it away, but to practice it.
Yeah, and repetition builds that confidence.
Yeah.
So yeah, you and me working together, I know what you even look like at night just by the way you walk.
Yeah.
You know, and having that level of familiarity between mounted, you're within the squad, in between squads, builds that confidence.
Yeah, and and one of the things I think we talk about a lot is, hey, we always say, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. One thing I'd like to think about better is, hey, what do we need, as we get ready for NTC, what do we need to stop doing? And I was wondering if you'd talk about what we need to stop doing. And one of the things I think you mentioned was not doing too much.
Yeah, I would stop trying to do too much, because NTC is a big cookie, and you can't put the whole thing in your mouth, so you just got to take small bites.
Right.
So going back to brilliance in the basics, plan your time wisely in getting repetitions in the basics.
Yeah.
Everything else will kind of fall into place. If you try to bite off too much, even the parts that you do won't be accomplished to the level that you need them to be.
Yeah.
So that's how I would focus.
Yeah, and I think our NCOs and the battalion's been talking a lot about that. They kind of see it the same way, and unfortunately, it's hard for like you said earlier, you want to get all this done. So I appreciate it. I really appreciate you taking time. As we step off here and you sit down with us, is there any other thing you'd like to talk with the Dark Rifles before we move out?
Well, Dark Rifles, I'm jealous that you guys are getting to go to NTC. We had the opportunity, we missed it. That was a great opportunity. As a brigade, we're not going to see it again until 2026. I'm super excited about the opportunities you guys have coming up, and you're going to get the most support you can out of the brigade staff.
Well, I really appreciate it. And, sir, thanks again for sitting down and talking with us. Hey, Dark Rifles, hey, I hope you listen up to what the brigade commander, Raven 6, has to offer us. I appreciate you watching. Hunt, Race, Kill.